So, Lauren, thank you so much for being on the show.
You're so welcome. I am so glad to be here.
I always like to start with just a little bit of, I don't know, story or look into why this is your passion. Because you must be passionate about it. So, what has brought you to this work and what's so fulfilling about it?
I love that question because I feel like in this field, sexuality, relationships, there's usually a why that most of us got into this type of work.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you for asking because I like everyone to know that yes, I am a certified holistic sexuality educator and an embodied intimacy and relationship coach. And I was not always like this. And it is very important, both to my own story, but for our audiences to understand that if I can do this, anyone can do this.
Mm.
So let me give a little bit of a backstory. I was born and raised in the same small town here in Virginia where I live currently. And I was raised inside of a very, very conservatively religious household. My
Okay.
parents had found Christianity both in their on their own and had come to the big behemoth of schools, Liberty University, here in Central Virginia. It is where they met and fell in love. So when they started having children, I think they wanted to do best by them. I really do. I think they wanted to save me from the heartache and heartbreak that they'd experienced. And so it was right as this purity culture movement was
Uh,
taking off in the United States. Exactly. Is the
yeah,
sound we should all make.
right.
Oh. And so, unfortunately, they really wanted to protect my heart. And what we fell into was me being the property of my father. I had a purity ring, I had a purity dance. I was told that I belonged body, heart, and soul to my father and to God and to the church until I was
Until
passed
they
off.
give you to, yeah,
Yes,
whoever you might
until
marry.
like
Right.
a cow, you're given to your husband. And interestingly enough, I loved it. I was bought in. I was signed,
Okay.
sealed, delivered. I work with a lot of folks now who will say that they always thought it smelled a little fishy, but I was deep in. I thought, "Ooh, this is good," and really, really desired to do it well. So I bought in, and I was engaged to be married at 21 and had not ever had sexual encounters with anyone,
Hmm.
was kissing this man I was engaged to, but that's it. Very clearly defined limits. Then, fast forward a little bit, my mother gets diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Oh,
And
wow.
the sole piece of sex ed I was given was on the night before our wedding that we had moved up so that she could be there. She said to me, Lauren, make sure that you take care of your husband's needs. I'm doing this in big air
Yeah, I can
quotes for
hear, I
anyone
can
who's
see
listening.
the, right.
Big air quotes. Make sure you take care of your husband's needs and everything will be fine. That was the one sole piece of education I was given.
Wow.
We got married on May 4th. She was dead May 25th.
Oh, wow.
And it triggered something in my now ex husband. And he became an alcoholic. Our whole lives started to unravel. The sex was non existent, if sparing. And I entered into a horribly emotionally and verbally abusive marriage.
Mm,
I didn't know that I could leave. I
right.
didn't
Yeah,
know
because you've
that I
been given
could.
into this thing, right? Like, I
Nope.
guess this is my lot.
I've
Yeah.
been taught things like you don't discuss your husband's sins with anyone else. This is a private matter. All of these types of things. So, fast forward many more years, someone starts having a dream about me. I've built a nonprofit organization, and one of our board members keeps saying, Lauren, are you okay? And I keep going, yeah, I mean, I don't know. This fundraising effort's a little stressful, but maybe. So she takes me on a walk. She sits me down on a bench. And for some reason, I felt comfortable to share with her the darkness that was going on inside of my own marriage. And she looked me deep in the eyes and said, we need to get you into counseling.
Mm.
And I said, my husband's going to say I'm tattletaling. I can't do that. And she said, let's just see how it goes. Sure enough, that's what he said. But the counselor, God bless her, I'll never forget her face, her jaw dropped. And she said to me, why are you choosing to remain in this marriage?
Mm.
And just a no lie, that is the first time anyone had ever phrased it that way.
Isn't it amazing how we hear some things that are like exactly what we need in the exact right moment? I've had a few of those myself. So,
It's beautiful, isn't it?
yeah.
To think,
Yeah.
I don't think she said anything miraculous, but I had never, ever heard marriage or relationship or partnership phrased as a choice.
Yeah.
Never. I said something to the effect of, I made my choice when I got married. And she said, no, 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 this is not what you were choosing. And she said, how about this? How about this? What if we craft together a list of boundaries that if are crossed in this next week, let's just see each other another week, then we will know that we need to work towards separation. We need a separation is mandatory. There was some horrifying things going on at that time in my relationship. And I had a daughter, an 11, like 7-year-old. And she said, no, well, separation at that point, and then you guys can get healthy and get back together. So he blew through all the boundaries in the week. We were separated. Through the separation, I really tried to do things according to the way that the church, again in air quotes, and I say that specifically because I think faith is great for people, but there's a lot of religiosity that I was caught up in. And yeah, tried to do things their way and did, I thought. But then when I went to file for divorce, I lost everything. I had people say, well, nope, you are just adding to the statistics of failed marriages. And I, yeah, lost it all. Lost my husband, lost my church community, lost my everything, ended my home, ended up in the basement of a little apartment building with my daughter sharing one bed. And it was there on the floor of this little basement apartment that I said, wait a second. Okay. If I'm no longer a virgin, am I now a whore?
Mm,
Right? The only ideas that had ever been presented to me about sexuality was that it was only good within this certain confine between a husband and a wife. And so I thought, well, wait a second. I know that I followed all the rules. I know I
right.
played all the right games. So this doesn't add up, right? The math isn't mathing, as they say these
Right,
days.
right, right.
And so it was there on that floor that I started gobbling up books on sexuality, books on religiosity, books on the foundations and the origins of the sexual beliefs and the sexual values and the sexual scripts that I had been given.
Yeah.
And did did they make any more sense? Where did they come from? Who wrote these scripts? And what did I want to do about it? So,
I want to ask you something. How
please.
much, because something that comes up with clients sometimes, how much was your daughter part of the motivation or taking this opportunity, wanting something different for her?
Everything. You're going to make me
Yeah.
cry. So,
Yeah.
um, so the things that were happening at that point inside of my marriage where my husband was experiencing these things called parasomnias. All right. So it's almost sleepwalking, and he would be
Mm-hmm.
one of three personalities any given evening. And when my therapist heard this and that it had been going on for 7 years,
Wow.
she was horrified for me and for my daughter.
Yeah.
And so the thing that ended it all was my daughter, because she woke up in the middle of the night and I was terrified because her father was having a parasomnia. And this one was, he was a very angry person. It's not himself. He was a very angry person. So I said to my daughter as I was washing my face, it must have been like midnight. I was getting ready to go to bed. Stay right here. Let mommy finish washing her face. And when I finished drying my face, she had gone into our bedroom where my husband was under this influence of a parasomnia and his arm was around her. And I said, you need to let her come to me. And he started laughing at me evilly. And I said to myself, this is done.
Yeah.
This is done.
Yeah.
Because you're exactly right. My daughter was 100% the motivation. And as I was there, right, fast forward to being on that floor, I thought, virgin whore, right? Is
Right.
that what I
Are
also
those the
want to
two
give to my
options? Yeah.
daughter? Is that do I really align with this, right? Did this idea of abstaining from all sexual contact prior to marriage, did that go well for me? No, right? And so is this necessarily the truth that I want to hand down to her? And by
Mm-hmm.
this point, I had learned so much and thought, why was I not gifted this education? What I'm starting to learn is leading to informed decisions, not to hedonism, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, wait a second. So, yes, great question. Great question. So, as I started healing my own self through reading, which we can call bibliotherapy, right? This
Right.
idea of if you read a book, you can do a lot of good for yourself. I started having folks ask me, what are you doing? You look different. You're changing.
Yeah.
And so that one thing led to another. I ended up finding my now husband on an app. He was in California. Our love story's blooming. I'm telling him about all this learning I'm doing. And he's like, babe, you should consider starting a business about this. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about that. And so I thought, well, let me just see if there are educational programs around the United States, globally, And that's when I found the Institute for Sexuality, Education, and Enlightenment that is ASEX certified. And I found them and fell in love with their holistic approach to
Hmm.
sexuality education because by this time I was finding that the educational component, science, data, I was nerding out for. But I
Right.
also was doing as much healing in yoga class and in sound baths. And I thought, I am hungry for a program that would give me both because I think it is a both and perspective. So I went back to school. At that point, didn't really know if I would do the business route or wrap it into my maternal health work, which was the nonprofit sector I was in. And it wasn't 6 months into school that I started learning so much and thinking, this is my next calling. This is what I've
Yeah.
got to do. So
Yeah.
hung up a shingle in 2022, January 2022, had a reel go viral at the end of 2022. And I now see clients all over the world on Zoom for education and coaching and work one-on-one and with couples. And we do needs assessment at the beginning and goals and objectives, very different than therapy. And most of my clients are simultaneously in therapy, and I work in
Hmm.
like a triadic approach, and it's
Right.
super
Right.
fun supporting their therapist or supporting their pelvic floor physical therapist. That's sometimes what they come from. And it is my purest joy. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
redemptive.
So when we're talking about sexual scripts, I mean, there's the stuff that could come out of purity culture. What other kinds of limiting beliefs or sex negative scripts? I mean, like, when you talk to all these clients, right? What are the basic categories of these, or where do people get them?
I say media.
Yeah.
Media, 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 right? So Disney movies. So many of
That's a good
us.
start, right? Starting
That's a
very
great
young.
start. And then ironically, Titanic has come up for like three different clients this past
Really?
week. So films like Titanic gave them these ideas of what romance looked like. Culture. So many of us are, perhaps we weren't raised inside of Christianity or Judaism or some other form of religion, but we grew up inside of family cultures. And inside of so many family cultures, we still have patriarchal norms. We have a lot of pornography that many of us were raised on, and that involves certain scripts that often focus on the male gaze. We have those scripts. We have societal scripts. So maybe even if you live in the United States, or you live in India, or you live in Thailand, or you live in France, if you live in Italy, you're going to have a bunch of different societal scripts that are also at work, shaping what you have come to believe about sex and bodies and the bodies of others. And it's really fascinating to begin to consider, are these the scripts I want to live by? Is this really the type of sex I want to have? Are these really the relationships I want to have? And are they contributing to a sense of brokenness within me,
Mhm.
which I hear every single week? This
Yeah,
idea
me too.
of, am I broken? Yeah, I was going to
Right.
ask you, is this a
All
similar
the
theme for
time.
you?
Yeah.
Yes. And so I think this idea of, now it's funny. So my foundational like entrance into professional world was musical theater. So I've grown up as a musical theater performer, and we're given a script that you follow,
Right.
characters that are already put on the page, a story that you get to surely develop the backstory of. But aside from that, it is set for you. In a musical, you don't get to just go off script. It's
Right.
dangerous for the whole cast. You're not allowed. And that's beautiful in that sense. But it really was fascinating for me to come to an understanding that I get to, me, Lauren, write her own sexual script. That I get to decide what values I want to behave from and out of. Like I said before, I was raised very legalistically. And I think I believed that any form of sexuality education, coaching, therapy would lead me to behave in a hedonistic way. What I
Mm.
didn't know was that there were many different categories in between legalism and hedonism, one of them being rationalism. And it's been really fun to help my clients figure out, in what ways do they want to ascribe to some of these foundational beliefs? They're not all bad. And in what ways do they kind of want to erase the whiteboard and write their own scripts?
The theater analogy then also makes me think there's improv, right? Like
Yes.
it's not even, being tied to a script and we got to do this and this and this and this. And I'm constantly talking about sex as a playground. Like, let's just go and see what we get inspired to do, right? So
Yeah.
I like the idea of
No, and
just
it's so
improv.
perfect.
Yes,
I love,
and
oh, I'm
you
gonna,
know,
yes, this is just what I was gonna say, is within improv, we even have structure.
yeah.
Within improv, it is very much BDSM, a dungeon. It is very much here is your playground. This is the scene that we're setting for you. Now play. And I think that is such a perfect analogy because in improv, you have your space, you're set up, you kind of have a scene, you know which game you're
There's some
playing. And
trusted partners in this, Yeah,
yes, I love
yeah,
this. Just I might take
yeah.
this. This is a beautiful analogy
Right.
because you're exactly right. Sometimes we don't even need a script. Sometimes one script works for one season, and then we broaden and expand and evolve as a human being, and it's time to do some rewrites. Right? It's time to do some edits. It's time to go improv. What I found was fascinating for myself and now for many of my clients is that this growth process, these graduations that we give ourselves developmentally in so many areas, our sexuality wasn't really coming along, right? We had set these scripts in stone when we had these foundational learning experiences, and then we hadn't, again, erased or rewritten
Yeah,
just
revisited these things, right? Yeah,
right.
yeah,
I stumbled into some research that showed at 7, 14, and 21, which of course developmentally are big ages, really start installing these sexual beliefs about what is sex, what are relationships, what is a man's role, what is a woman's role, who does your body belong to, how do you stay safe, what is it that pleasure even is? When I do these exercises with my clients at these ages and ask them these questions in connection to certain memories, they will blush often or just drop their heads. And I'll say,
yeah,
"What? Tell me about that." And they'll say, "Lauren, I still believe that now."
yeah.
And I work together with them to do some weeding of what I also call a sexual garden so that we can go, yeah, that other thing you believed at 14 that you no longer believe. It's okay. It's okay to throw that one out.
You've sort of alluded to some of this, but when somebody's just starting to examine their sexual garden, like how is it they discern what's a weed, what's a flower, what do I want, what do I not want? Is there some guidance around, that discernment?
I'd love to toss the same question to you after with my clients is by really doing some deep work on our values. What is it that we align with now? I have a lot of fun different exercises, some that have a bazillion different words on the page, and I ask them to circle 10, whittle it down to 5, whittle it down to 1. Then together we craft a sexual values mission statement. If they're partnered, we do it together. If they're alone, right? My solo and partnered sex exists to fill in the blank so that fill in the blank. Because when I look at the World Health statement, the World Health Organization's statement on sexual health, they say that
Right.
it is fundamental to the well being of individuals, families, and communities.
Yes.
So
And
I
one of those
tell,
6 tenets is pleasure.
yes,
Sorry, I shouldn't scream into the microphone,
you should scream into the
but it's
microphone.
so
It's in
important.
there. It is on the page. This is serious business.
Yeah.
And when I tell my clients, what if your sex could heal the world? Call me crazy, but I'm like, it's a
Yeah.
worthy investment that we all should be focused on. And so I think we get to write sexual values mission statements
Yeah.
because then the what we do is informed by the why we do it.
Would
And
you be
so
willing to share yours or an example of a
ooh,
mission
that's such a
statement?
great question. Okay, so I'm going to come up with one right now.
Yeah, you can make one
So
up.
one of my top values is courage. And then underneath those are things like play, adventure, love, and respect. Okay, so say that mine are courage, play, adventure, love, and respect. I'm doing this
Hmm.
off the fly, friends. So
Right,
if I
right, right.
mix one up,
I
just
know. I
have
put
fun,
I put you on
okay?
the spot. So
I love it. No, I love it. This is improv. We can go with
right.
it. We can go with it. So I would say something like Lauren's solo and partnered sexual encounters exist to provide her with playful and adventurous opportunities so that her world can see her as a courageous human full of love and respect. Period.
Like it.
What I find is that the things that we do in private, our solo and partnered sexual encounters, absolutely benefit the world around us.
Yeah.
They benefit our friends, they benefit our families, they benefit our communities, they benefit our children.
Yeah.
And when we can see that, then even going to a kink party can benefit our world because we're doing it in a values aligned way. We're not doing it because Jenny says we should. We're doing it because we have really looked at ourselves and said, you know what? Play and adventure make me a better mama. Now I know the situations in which it is appropriate to be playful and adventurous sexually, not in front of young people, but
Right.
in
Right.
a safe and consenting adult space. Wonderful. That leads me to be a better community member. And when we can start to lean into the nuance of this, lean into the improv and the new scripts that we're writing, I think we benefit those around us in our communities and, call me crazy, our world.
No, I'm totally on board. I think I'm changing the world one relationship at a time. So,
Exactly.
so,
Exactly.
so people discern what to weed out of this garden. Does it align with this mission statement, with these values? How is it making me feel, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what I hear all the time? Lauren, my sex feels like me.
Hmm.
Like, yes,
And
it
they didn't know
does.
that was even a possibility
they,
before, right? Like,
they
how can I
didn't
relate to
know
this?
it was a possibility. And I had a client the other day say, Lauren, this work does not feel like learning. I said, oh, really? What does this feel like? She said, either unlearning or remembering.
Yeah.
I think there is
A
so much, and I
combination of those things, probably. Yeah.
yes, right? There is so much that we actually knew as little people. I like to say that we were born inherently perfect sexual beings, and the world just piled a bunch of bullshit on top of us.
Hmm.
And so, in this unlearning and in this remembering, I'll have clients who all of a sudden remember their first time they kind of did a grinding motion against the arm of a couch, and they remember that pleasure was for them, or the first time they were standing in the shower and felt an erection and pleasure was for them. And so then they start to see, well, wait a second, my pleasure is connected to fill in the blank. And it feels so juicy and wonderful and pure, ironically, an expression of them. And from that, and through these new values that we've developed together, we are able to write scripts that are both erotic and ethical. And
Hmm.
then we start to be able to invite others to play with us in these ways, invite others an opportunity to experiment with us in this realm, not require them. I don't believe that we get to require another to play with us in the way that we want to play, but we
Right.
do get to invite them to. And we can be a person more full of integrity, call me crazy, by knowing our sexual wants and being able to say, hey, this is what I want. Sexual communication, I'm sure you see, is so vulnerable,
Yeah.
so scary. And so when we have a better understanding of ourselves and our sexual values and the things that we're interested in, then we can, without shame, put those forward and invite others to experience and play with us.
Yeah. Now, one of the things you talk about is sexual integration. Can you, I mean, can you speak to its role in this process as we're rewriting our scripts?
Yeah, right before this, I was listening to an interview by some people who still claim the Christian faith, and they were talking about the harms of erotic literature, which I disagree with,
Hmm.
and they are welcome to their opinions, but I disagree with those. And I was thinking, I was yelling actually at the Spotify, but I was thinking that what's missing here is integration. So the World Health Organization, again, says that integration is a fundamental process. And what I mean by that is coming to a place of peace in this differentiation process between fantasy and reality,
Mm.
between good and evil, between spiritual self and physical self. And understanding that when we push sexuality into the shadows, it is there in the shadows that it often takes on the form of the thing that we most fear.
Mm.
This idea that sexuality is this ravening beast that's coming to destroy you is a very Plato theme, very Christian scriptures theme that has kind of been massaged into our culture.
Yeah.
This idea that sexuality is scary and you're going to form an addiction and it's going to be horrible. And so I deeply believe that by integrating this paradoxical idea that we could have some naughty minds. Esther Perel is famous for saying that we often fantasize about the things that we would demonstrate against during the day.
Right.
And that's just a truth. And so being able to sit with this and do this important thing that you and I are doing here, which is discourse about sexuality, I really think that when we take sex out of the taboo, and we bring it to kitchen tables and boardrooms and legislative chambers, then we start to absolutely integrate conversations about sexuality as a very broad subject in spaces where it must be talked about. Because when we continue to say, shh, no, no, it's not polite to talk about that, we perpetuate harm against
Yeah.
people who are always going to be harmed,
Yeah.
which is typically people in female bodies and typically people who are not white. And we are just going to continue to do this if we continue to say, no, sex over there, life over here. We are sexual beings. And I love to say that sex is not everything. It's not, but it is a part of everything. And the sooner we can understand that, the sooner we can integrate our eroticism and our physicality and our spirituality and our relationships and our lives and our children all into an understanding of what is age appropriate, developmentally appropriate, and beautiful
Yeah.
to be experienced by all.
It makes me think of I've just started this new community, women writing erotica. And
Oh
I
my God.
see it, I see
I
it as
love
a
that.
vehicle of like exploration and empowerment and healing. As you know, whether anyone ever wants to publish any of it or share it, just like the importance of diving into our internal erotic
It
interests and preferences and the freedom and permission of that excites me. So it's a brand new project, but I think we're talking about the same motivation, you know. So
that, right? Is that I often tell my clients sometimes we don't want that sex. Sometimes we want this sex. And being able to put down on a page, yes, all of these fantastical delights and these core carnal erotic desires is so good for us. So
yeah.
I say phooey to the idea that erotic literature is hurting us. I think
Yeah.
it is actually such a benefit to us and makes us women who want.
Yes.
And I think that the world heals when women want. I
Mm,
don't think it sets our expectations too high. I think it raises the bar for
right.
our potential sexual partners, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I hear you. All right. Well, share where people can reach you. What do you
Okay.
have
All the
available?
things, all
Yeah.
the things. Come find me on Instagram. That's my primary social platform. You can go to sex underscore ed underscore for underscore you. And yeah, we have a community of about 20,000 there. And I would love to chat with you and get to know you. Please send me a DM and tell me you found me on this podcast. If something I said today was like, I want to work with that lady, you can
Yeah.
go to sexedforyou.com/free consult. And I would love, love, love a chance to chat with you. You can tell me about why now. Please tell me you found me on this podcast. I can explain how I work with my individual clients, how it differs from therapy, and you can decide if that would be a neat fit for you. But yeah, sexedforyou.com/free consult. I also have two podcasts. I've got one with my partner. You can find it anywhere by going to the Partnership Podcast. And then I have one called Sex Ed for You.
Perfect. I'll put all those links in the show notes too, so people don't have to be like scrambling here.
Scrambling. I've done it
Right.
before and then gone, oh, phew, it's in a show notes.
Right. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me and have a great day.